like to introduce a alternate code of conduct that has been worked on with independent counsel for the past 6+ weeks to come up with something that if applied is very well written, very well laid out, provides a great deal of accountability, and takes into account all of those board resolutions, state statutes, everything that is currently in place, and very succinctly addresses that in one code of conduct policy. And I would move it.
And you would move it?
I'm prepared to move this for discussion.
I'm not going to accept that motion, but I would ask the chair of the board to allow for a 5-minute recess to review this particular document before we move forward.
It's in your committee, isn't it?
I know it is, but I'm going to...
Let's take a 5-minute break.
Let's take a 5-minute break.
Read it then.
Very good.
Okay. 5 minutes. Keith has the floor right now. I shut him off, and then I'll come right to you.
I just want to make a...
I will relinquish to our chair.
Well, I was just going to say I have to leave at 3:40, so I just so you understand. But
all right,
I have read this, and I could make a quick comment on what I see here.
Okay.
Get it out on the table, and that the whole purpose of what we've been through for almost a year is to come up with a code of conduct that holds us accountable to one another, holds us accountable to the electorate, and that we don't want people to perceive that we think that we're above anyone else and that we're held to standards that are fair throughout the organization. And as I read this, you can go down like item number 2, political participation. We are being held to Minnesota statute. Officials shall not use county funds, equipment, supplies, employees, or facilities in support of candidates, political organizations. That is in this code of conduct. Conflict of interest, we're held to the county board resolution number 104. So we are held accountable to that policy, as well as all other employees, I assume, are under that. We are being held to the drug and alcohol-free workplace, board resolution number 512, under that policy, and the same as other employees. Number 5, discrimination, harassment, retaliation, and workplace violence, see County Board Resolution number 494, and it says here that all elected county officials have a responsibility to conduct themselves in a manner that contributes to a safe, accepting, and supportive workplace environment. That's what we've been working toward. That needs to be spelled out, and it is here. Violence in the workplace in any form will not be tolerated. It can be physical, psychological, or behavioral. And it is the intent of the Code of Conduct to ensure that everyone associated with St. Louis County, including elected officials, employees, customers, contractors, and visitors, are not threatened by any actions or conduct. Again, that's what we've been working for as a board. The educational programs I see in here that, it refers to the menu of training programs that we have, and that each elected official is encouraged to attend one internal or external code of conduct training per year. And if this is the motion that gets on the floor, I would publicly say that I would commit to that, and I think everybody else could make a similar statement if they wanted to. And then number 7, there is a section here talking about reporting suspected violations, and there's a process for doing that. And then finally, there are consequences of violating the code of conduct, and that gives the board the power to set up rules and regulations in response to a complaint on a case-by-case basis with the advice of its affirmative action officer and administrator as the data practices officer. That's the position that he performs. And I think that we are at a point where we've brought this along far enough, and I would support this. Is it a perfect document? I haven't seen one yet. Could it be improved in the future? Maybe it could, and I think the test will be the first case that comes before us, and to see how we react, and when that happens, I think that we can make any adjustments that need to be done. But by and large, I would think that for the public, for us as a board, this would be a good way for us to end this year and not drag this on anymore into the new year, and that we should unanimously support a code of conduct. One that holds us to the same standards basically as all the other employees.
Commissioner Crone, are you moving this?
I thought Keith moved it, and
He did not. I didn't accept the motion.
Oh, wow. I would support it if
Commissioner
someone
Nelson,
wants
are
to
you
move
moving
it.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Fink, or Chair Commissioner Fink, our board chair has been very diligent in trying to push this wet rope around for the past 6 or 7 months, 8 months, and has worked hard to do so. I would give him the opportunity to move this if he so chooses. If not, I would move it and he can support it.
I'll move it.
And
It's
I
been
will
moved
support it.
and supported. You all had some time, not a lot, but at some time. Commissioner Nelson, or Commissioner O'Neill.
I mean, on the surface, it looks okay, but I guess I'd ask that we move it without recommendation, so we can actually.
I would be happy to move it
I'm
without
fine with that.
recommendation
Take a look at
as
it.
Commissioner
well.
Forsman needs to be here.
Exactly.
I'm fine with that.
I was just happy to see something come that seems to have had hitting lots of the bullets that we wanted to hit, and I'm happy to see that. But I would move it without recommendation and give us time to further react to it.
Commissioner Sweeney, did I see your hand up?
Nope.
Okay, Commissioner, or I'm sorry, Administrator.
Thanks, I'll be happy.
That person over there in the corner.
And I'm speaking as your county attorney right now. The consequences of violating the code of conduct, I think, is woefully short of what the law requires of us. We can't set up rules and regulations on a case-by-case basis. We have to have a clear policy that's followed consistently in order to pass the muster of the Human Rights Commission or the EEOC, the laws, federal or state laws. We can't just respond on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, thank you. I heard two people talk. Commissioner Crone first. I'm going to bring this to a vote, by the way, before you leave.
I would just say, yeah, I certainly can take the comments of the county attorney into consideration, and if there's new language that comes along next week that can do something better, I would certainly look at it, but I would just like us to keep moving.
Okay, well, Commissioner Crone, there is a concern that I had, and it was only that as I looked at all of these documents, the one thing that caused me all kinds of pain and heartache during the course of this year is that we have not looked at each of the documents that is addressed here. Resolution 104, Resolution 512, and the others that are through here. And it would seem to me that ultimately as part of the resolution, and I'd have to work this out between now and next week, that we ought to put something in that resolution that says each of those particular policies be looked at for clarity in terms of policy process and a couple of other things like that, and I would be interested in. So maybe there's a move and also and further be resolved that would cause us to go back into each one of these policies in the short run and look at them and see what the details of those are. Commissioner Nelson.
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Fink. Are you suggesting that we have a copy of these statutes attached as part of this?
No, I'm just saying that if in fact you're going to make reference to it, this board ought to be wise enough to look at each one of those and make sure that the processes and procedures that are in those things are in fact consistent with what we're thinking about. It should be done.
I have, and that's why but one quick point that I'd like to make here and to the attorney's comment. It took an awful long time to look at all of this because I couldn't find any place in the state of Minnesota, nor could I find a place in the United States where an outside entity had oversight of an elected body. Now, if you can find that, I'm just more than happy to look at what you've got. But the fact of the matter is that the statute clearly puts it out there. And I have heard from my constituents. In fact, the majority of the constituents I have heard from on this are elected officials. And they have come to me, and if this board would like, I'd be more than happy to bring them in front of this board. But they have come to me and said, there is a reason why we elected you. There is a reason why we elected commissioners. This is very straightforward. The language already exists. We're working within the statute that is already there. And I think that the amount of time that has been spent on this, and as many of you board members may be aware, that at least 3 commissioners sought outside legal counsel on this. And I have to tell you that it's been looked at extensively.
Due to the time, I've got 2 people on the list. I will take others, but keep your comments close and as quick as you can so that we can get this vote in before Commissioner Crone leaves. Commissioner O'Neill.
Thank you, Chair. Okay. Dana, could you provide us with everything that has been cited here when we get our packets on Thursday?
You actually probably have that in your
I think we
office.
have that.
Well, we
That'd be a
probably
good idea.
do, but,
Succinctly.
right,
Okay.
exactly, that would be helpful.
Done? Commissioner Rocker?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I have no, I will be supportive of moving this forward, and I think as Commissioner Crone has stated, it may not be a perfect document, but in many ways it is a very groundbreaking action that leads local governments, as there is no such thing anywhere else that anyone's been able to discover. And it's leading other government bodies by defining a code of ethics that we are, in many ways it is a very groundbreaking action that leads local governments, as there is no such thing anywhere else that anyone's been able to discover. And it's leading other government bodies by defining a code of ethics that we are stating to hold ourselves accountable on behalf of those that we serve. And if there's additions to be made for it with respect to language under any piece of this, we certainly need to consider that. But I think the important thing is to move it forward. It truly is groundbreaking.
Further comments? Seeing none. All those in favor of moving this forward without recommendation to the county board next week, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Seeing none. Measure passes.